Hello there, and thanks for coming on over. This is the 8th installment in a series on my channel called 100 Casts, in which I will be casting 100 games of League of Legends, the replays of which will be sent in to me by viewers like you. If you would like your replay to be featured on this channel, just check in the description for a set of instructions on how to get that done. Anyways, thank you for watching this, and hopefully you'll watch the rest. Enjoy! So, starting off here, we have Purple Side with Amumu in the jungle, using that discarded old Christmas present skin. I love that one. That one's pretty great. Gragas in the top lane, bringing Teleport. Akali in the mid lane, and a Caitlyn and Morgana down in the bot lane. Quite a long range and very effective lane for harassing the opponent out. In the top side for blue team, we have Jax. In the mid's going to be an Orianna. In the jungle will be a Shaco, who is bringing Ignite and Smite, because Shaco has enough mobility with his Q that he doesn't need to bring Flash, and thus can bring another more offensive combat summoner, such as Ignite or Exhaust, the Shaco opting for the Ignite in this matchup. And in the bot lane, we have a Blitzcrank and a Twitch, who are pretty much the opposite of the enemy bot lane. They are a very brawly duo who simply because Blitzcrank is there, like to engage on the enemy and do a lot of damage all at once rather than poking over time and bringing them down and winning the lane fight through that method. We have the Jax helping out the Shaco, starting on his blue buff. Shaco probably not going to need that much of a leash, though, because Shaco is very good at doing his first buff solo, since he has a lot of time to set up his boxes beforehand, which not only provide extra damage onto the buff and help him burst it down that way, also provide the Fear CC to the entire camp that the buff is a part of, and allows Shaco to mitigate a lot of damage that way. Amumu, though, is going to need quite a leash. Amumu not very good at clearing his first buff, his clear speed fairly low, and his mana costs rather high, though with the new jungle items, or I say new, but not new at all, with the more recent jungle items, he does have less of a difficult time. Blitz just pulling that blue buff over the wall. He's alone, so I don't think he's going for a serious steal here, but he is going to be stalling the Amumu out by pulling his blue buff over the wall, forcing Amumu to walk around as the blue buff, as he doesn't know whether or not the enemy team is actually there for a serious steal or not. It seems like it's actually Blitzcrank in the mid lane and Orianna in the bot lane, though. This is not what I was expecting. The Blitzcrank is going AP in the mid lane. That's going to be an interesting one to watch. I actually have never seen that. I've heard of it being done, and I know that Blitz does have AP ratios on his Q and his ult passive and the ult active, so it could certainly be done. I'm not sure if there's one on his E, though it's still going to be a knock-up, which is good no matter what. CC is always nice to have. Gragas getting the level advantage there on Jax for just a moment, but not really doing too much with it. He does get some more health off of Jax than Jax gets off of him, getting the health advantage in the lane there as well, but Jax hitting level 2 as Gragas goes in with the belly slam and an auto attack, not popping the Q onto the Jax, maybe waiting a bit too long before popping that one there, but the Jax still going down below half health. However, the Gragas is running himself fairly low on mana there. I don't think he can do that trade more than 1 or 2 more times at the most, but I don't think he's going to need to, as he does have the advantage in that lane. Gragas being a very strong duelist ever since his rework, which made him more of an AP bruiser than a AP mage. Jax landing the Counter-Strike stun into Gragas, doing quite a bit of damage there, as Gragas not able to trade back equally. Goes down to actually just below Jax's health, where Jax's health was, and now the lane is in favor of the Jax. However, Akali's getting ganked now by the Shaco. The fear from Shaco's box actually sending Akali away from the Blitz hook, and Blitz misses his hook, and so the gank does not work out in the end. Amumu up in the top lane. Jax forced to flash away from this. Feeling the counter-strike onto both Amumu and Gragas as they come into tower. Gragas taking a tower hit, and the Ignite chooses not to keep going with that one, and backs away. Shaco invisible now on the Amumu, gonna drop a box next to him, dropping the Ignite on Amumu now as well, forcing Amumu's flash away. The Shaco throwing the knife, but the animation getting cancelled by Amumu, stepping out of vision, forcing Shaco to continue chasing, but he does eventually get the first blood, throwing that knife and getting the kill onto Amumu, sorry about that, doing some good damage and getting a kill for himself, putting himself at 1-0, getting first blood there for blue side, who have a 200 gold advantage now. Certainly nothing insurmountable, but they're going to be happy with that. Shaco being a very effective jungler. If he can get some gold early in the game, he can do quite a lot of damage. And then start split pushing later on as the match. He's not too great in team fights because he simply doesn't offer too much to a large AoE teamfight, but he is very good at split pushing, especially since once he actually gets to the tower, he can pop into his ult and have two of him attacking the tower, as we see Blitz landing the hook onto Akali there and doing some decent damage to her, knocking her up. Blitz's mana costs are a little bit prohibitive though, which is one of the reasons why you don't really see him in mid lane too often, but he seems to be managing his mana pretty well. He's only at about half mana bar right now, though Akali's not going to have that problem being an energy champion, and could probably just turtle under her tower until level 6 and then jump in onto the Blitz, who doesn't really have too many ways to escape aside from a speed buff, but a speed buff isn't too great against someone with multiple dashes like Akali. As the counter-strike from Jax does land onto the Gragas, Jax now winning this lane up in the top lane, though not winning in CS yet, as Gragas is still ahead by 3, but 3 is not really all that much, and Jax is pushing into the lane and does scale a bit better than the Gragas into late game, so allowing Jax to farm is going to be maybe a bit of a problem for Purple Team, as Amumu's down here in the bot lane going for the gank. The Twitch certainly out of the way, but the Orianna not getting away in time, forcing her flash, as the Amumu does land the bandage toss, gets a bunch of damage down on her, and then she flashes away from the follow-up CC from Morgana, managing to escape with her life, but having to burn a summoner there, so successful gank for Amumu. Probably going to be coming back bot lane again sometime in the near future. As Twitch walks up invisibly to the Caitlyn, igniting her and landing 2 autos on her. Is the dots? Yes, the combined damage over time effects is going to be enough to take down the Caitlyn despite flashing away. As that's another kill going over to blue side, who are now about 300 gold, 400 gold in the lead here, with the Shaco and the Twitch both having a kill. Jax still just beating onto the Gragas up here in the top lane, leap striking onto him and landing an empowered auto attack with his W, getting him quite low. Pushing up to the tower more, as Blitzcrank is now level 6 in the mid lane before Akali is, might be going for some sort of fight here while he has the level advantage, though Akali's backing up, doesn't want to get ganked near that tower by the Shaco. Shaco, though, is bot lane. She doesn't have to fear him, but she doesn't know that. She doesn't have enough wards around to be able to guess exactly where Shaco is, and even if you do have wards, he can use his invisibility in clever ways to get around walls and avoid wards, as Shaco is actually counter-jungling this Amumu, dropping a box onto his camp as he finds Amumu and lands a few auto-attacks onto him after jumping over the wall invisibly. Blitzcrank taking a tower hit there was going to help out his Shaco, but doesn't want to risk it against the potentiality of a Amumu and Akali jumping onto him. The Jax leaping on-to the Gragas as Blitzcrank just barely misses his hook here in the mid lane. Shaco again ganking the mid lane, dropping his Ignite onto the Akali as the Akali goes into her Shroud, flashes away after being invisible in the Shroud for a little while, and does manage to get back to her tower and into the safety of its range as the Orianna goes down in the bot lane after getting bound by the Morgana and hit by a Piltover Peacemaker and a few auto attacks from Caitlyn. Jax leaping onto the into the Gragas there, using his Leap Strike W and the Counter Strike, goes entirely out of mana, not able to keep chasing any further. The Morgana just pressing R near the Twitch, doesn't care that he's invisible. The ult latches onto him anyways, shows her where to throw the bind, and with the bind manages to kill off the Twitch. Blitz barely missing the hook there in the Amumu, who's come into mid lane to get some of that CS that Akali is missing out on because she was forced to back earlier after the Shaco gank. And Jax still pushing up into the top lane here, now has his ult every third hit, dropping a little golden ring around the enemy that he whacks with his, well, he's not supposed to have a real weapon, but in that skin he does have a halberd, so I'm not entirely sure whether or not Riot's lore department got a look at that skin before it went into production, but if they did, maybe they just thought it was some sort of strange fork, some sort of giant eating utensil, and they didn't actually consider it a real weapon, as we see Amumu here taking out his red buff on his side of the jungle, and a Mia call in the mid lane because they do not know where the Blitzcrank is, but Blitz is just walking back to lane. They have no cause to be afraid of that. Blitz ganks, though, from the mid lane would be kind of deadly. If Blitz could push out his lane, maybe with his ult, and then roam down to bot or top, he could certainly make a very dangerous gank happen, and roaming being an important part of a mid laner's toolkit, that certainly is an argument for the mid Blitz, as Caitlyn uses her E to dash into the wall there, a little bit of a mistake, as she goes down to the ult from Twitch and the damage from Orianna, who helps the Twitch out in getting that kill, and that's another kill given over to Twitch, who is 2-1 at this point. Shaco again in the mid lane, dropping a box next to the Akali, the Akali just going right into Shroud, avoiding any any damage from the Shaco and dodging out any potentiality of a Blitz hook there, because Blitz did not know where Akali went in that big pool of invisibility. Jax landing the counter-strike onto Gragas, trading pretty well with third proc of his ult. However, Akali and Amumu are now on the Blitzcrank. Amumu popping his ult after Blitzcrank flashes away, catches him with the edge of it, and Akali takes down the Blitzcrank. That is a kill for Akali, who is 1-0 and has the Dorian Shield and a Vampiric Scepter. Probably going to be building that into a Hex Tech Revolver, very popular item on a Akali there. And we see Shaco now in the top lane with double buffs, turning invisible and leaping into the middle of the lane, dropping a box behind the Gragas. The box does proc to fear him, but the fear does not last very long, as Shaco does not manage to get the gank there, only grabbing Gragas' ult for his trouble, which is certainly a victory there, because Jax did not use his and neither did Shaco, but not a terrible loss for Gragas, as Akali and Amumu are roaming down to the spot lane together. Amumu missing the bandage toss there as Twitch comes out in invisibility and lands some auto attacks onto the Amumu, who's going down below half health, but there's 4 members of purple team here. The Caitlyn ult's getting blocked by Twitch there. Blitzcrank has roamed down and is in the tri-bush, tosses a hook but misses as Akali leaps onto the Orianna, takes her out. The Akali then goes down to Blitz's ult as Blitz goes down himself to the Caitlyn, who gets a double kill, but Blitz's Ignite after his death kills the Amumu as up in the top lane. Jax 1v1 the Gragas and took him out. So that's all in all a 3 for 3, I believe. Both teams getting 3 kills over the map, though one of the kills being a little bit unrelated to the fight down in the bot lane, as it's just Jax and Gragas going at a 1v1 up in the top lane. Jax now pushing into the tower, going to leap strike away to a minion, and then come back into range after losing the tower aggro and land some auto attacks onto that tower, as Caitlyn and Morgana are down in the bot lane, attacking that tower there. Morgana actually getting those Spell Thief's passive procs as she auto attacks that tower. I love that as a support. You can just auto attack the tower a few times and get a bunch of gold, and the auto attacks actually do the bonus damage to the tower, but Caitlyn a bit too close up. The Orianna looked like she was alone, but she was not, because the rat can turn invisible. But Morgana landing a pretty clutch binding onto the Twitch there as he comes out of invisibility, and then flashing away the Caitlyn being forced to use flash as well. So 2 flashes burned in bot team, but luckily both of them survive as Blitzcrank runs in and uses his E onto the Akali, doing quite a bit of damage with the Sheen proc, and then casting his ult to do another big burst. I believe his ult has a 1-to-1 scaling ratio on the activation of it, and a huge AoE around him, which gives him some decent wave clear and some good team fight with that instant silence and lots of damage, as the Amumu flashes forward, lands a bandage toss onto Orianna, and Orianna goes down to the binding from Morgana as Twitch turns invisible and runs away, leaving his support alone in a 1v3 situation. Not that he really could have done too much to help there. They were just a bit too far up, and Amumu did flash forward for that. So the Orianna going down, giving another kill over to purple team. Now it's 7-6 overall. Purple team having about 2,000 gold, maybe 3,000 gold advantage here. Twitch dodging out the binding there with that movement speed buff from turning invisible. Good quick turnaround there, as Akali now in the top lane against this Jax. Jax going to be unloading a ton of damage onto the Gragas, but gets knocked back to take a tower shot from the Gragas ulti, and then goes down to the Akali. The Gragas is going fairly low, but being able to keep himself alive with his ult there, knocking the Jax away before he can take any more burst damage from the Jax. Blitzcrank in the top lane, misses the hook. Akali flashes forward and then shadow dashes onto him, doing a whole bunch of damage, slowing him with the activation from the Bilgewater Cutlass, and then going under tower as Gragas dashes in with the body slam and gets the kill there. But down in the bot lane, we have Orianna and Twitch landing auto attack after auto attack onto the Caitlyn. The Twitch flashes forward for the final auto under the Caitlyn's tower and takes her out. That is another kill for Twitch, who is at this point 3-2, as the bot lane gets another kill for themselves on blue side, putting gold about 3,000 difference still, as purple team has a tower up over blue, as well as 2 kills, and thus a decent gold advantage. But certainly nothing insurmountable. Blue team could come back at this point, and purple team certainly has to be wary of the fact that the blue team's team comp is pretty good for the late game, with that Jax, Orianna, and Twitch all having good late game team fights, with a good Orianna ult or a good Twitch ult really being able to turn the tide of a team fight later on in the game. Just taking a second here to look at the Blitzcrank's build. He has bought a Sheen, which means on that E he will be proccing it for some extra damage, as well as after hooking someone he can get an auto attack in there to do a bit of extra damage. The Sheen being I think the best choice he could have gone with for AP Blitz in the mid lane, though honestly I don't see it often enough, and I've never played it myself, so I don't really know. He does get jumped onto the Akali there, takes a bunch of damage, as down in bot lane, the Orianna lands Shockwave onto the Caitlyn, who is a bit too close, tries to net away, but does not get far enough away as she goes down to the Twitch and Orianna there. Once more, giving another kill over to the Twitch, who is 4-2. Akali tower diving the Blitzcrank, leaping onto the Blitzcrank, who ignites the Akali and then hooks her after knocking her up. Tons of CC, all in a chain there, and a whole bunch of damage. The Akali biting up a bit more than she can chew, and that tower dive does go down to the Blitzcrank, who is 3-3 at this point, buying a Tear and a Sheen, looking for a lot of mana. That's going to really work well with his passive as well, which gives him a shield when he's near death, based off of how much mana he has left. Jax popping the Cutlass onto Gragas, but then choosing the better of it, not going to keep following him after slowing him down. As down in the bot lane, Twitch and Orianna are getting that turret, putting it 1-for-1 at turrets, one turret for each team now, and nearly evening up the gold score, just a 1,000 gold difference, and this game has really gone back to being even once more. Amumu here in the mid lane, maybe going to pop ult. No, Blitzcrank flashes away before he can do it. Blitzcrank now pretty close by because his teammates are there. The Amumu does get hooked by the Blitzcrank and then pops his ult, but doesn't have quite enough damage to take out the Blitzcrank, who does have his mana barrier up one more time and survives because of that. But Akali leaping in, shadow dashing to the Twitch, and then shadow dashing to the Blitzcrank behind the Twitch, does manage to take out the Blitzcrank, as Morgana in the mid lane landing a binding onto the Twitch after he takes a ton of damage from the Akali. As up in the top lane, we also have Gragas, Jax, and Shaco fighting. The Gragas having enough burst damage to kill the Jax before Shaco and Jax can take him down. So tons of action happening all over the board here. Shaco tower diving onto this Jax, onto this names. Akali tower diving onto that Shaco, landing her mark of the assassin, and then shadow dashing onto him, but he does use his Q to get away invisibly there, and the Akali just cannot continue the dive. He's got double bust though, gonna jump over the wall, throw a knife onto the Akali, but the Akali has enough burst to win this duel. She's on a killing spree now as she gets hooked by the Blitzcrank and then pulled under tower, where Blitzcrank presses R and gets the shutdown gold, and the double buff is successfully transferred. Plan going as it was meant to be done by the Shaco there that whole time. He did that on purpose. It was entirely worth. As Twitch coming down in the bot lane, invisible, getting the Orianna ball onto him, running up next to the Caitlyn flashing away and using net and heal just to escape this combination of the Twitch and the Orianna. She does manage to escape, but a lot was burned there, and that certainly was a successful little gank there from the Twitch. He's got to be happy with that. Gragas and Amumu here in the top lane, maybe going to be thinking about a dive onto Jax, who is under his tower, pushing out the minion wave that Gragas has just shoved into him. No, Amumu's going to be walking away now, doesn't want to actually dive this Jax. Diving a Jax is a pretty risky endeavor. And blue team is up 2-1 in turrets, and only behind by about 1,000 gold. And so that's not really so much of a lead that they can't come back in this game, as Gragas is leaping onto the Blitzcrank, ulting him as Akali shadow dashes onto the Blitzcrank. The mana barrier keeping him alive for quite a long time before he finally goes down to the Akali, but he does take the Akali with him, but it is a 3-on-2 situation, so they only trade 2 for 1, but still fairly impressive amounts of shielding from that Blitzcrank, amount of tankiness that he has there, as blue team is in an odd role reversal here, actually on the wrong side of the map, being chased by the enemy bot lane up into their jungle. Shaco shows up to try and help, but the Morgana has so much damage, along with the Caitlyn's Piltover Peacemaker landing onto the Orianna, who goes down very quickly. But Twitch now dropping his ult onto both the enemy team members in bot lane is going to get the shutdown of Morgana, and then a double kill as he takes out Caitlyn as well, who tried to escape but could not having either of her summoners up anymore because of that gank down in bot lane earlier near the enemy team's tower. As Shaco now at the blue buff doesn't realize that Amumu's in the bush though. Gonna use his Q just to get that extra guaranteed crit that he does after he uses it. Shaco gonna bandage toss in, press his ult, the blue buff going over to him as he smites it down, and then Akali shows up and takes out the Shaco. And I meant Amumu bandage tossed in. I don't know what it is with me and names today. I'm sorry about that. As Jax, using his Blade of the Ruined King onto the Gragas, trying to chase him down here. Going to be doing a good amount of damage to him. The Twitch down in the bot lane, turning invisible, running away from the Amumu, who flashes forward, but Twitch dodges the other direction, still invisible, going to be running it up into the river. Akali is here as well, but I think he does get away with that speed buff and the invisibility, as Blitz in the mid lane, with his W attack speed bonus, is pounding onto this tower with those robotic fists. He's going to be taking the second tower in the mid lane with the Sheen procs and the attack speed bonus from his W, and that's 3 towers to the 2 towers for purple team now. and puts blue team nearly even in gold. Still not ever getting ahead in this game, but they are just about even. And Dragon is being done by purple team now. Oriana has her ball on it, watching that, as Shaco's gonna Q over the wall after Oriana shockwaves two members of purple team, but the Dragon still going to purple team there, as Shaco not showing up in time to be able to smite steal it. And that is more of a gold lead for purple team, who are now 3,000 gold ahead of blue, and are now pushing up the mid lane to even up the turret score and give themselves even more of a lead. 4,000 gold ahead now, as Shaco is chasing down the Akali, who goes into her shroud, leaps on to the Oriana, doing quite a bit of damage, but Oriana being healed there by the Twitch. No, by herself, she does have heal. And then Twitch dropping the ult onto the Caitlyn. Caitlyn going quite low and then falling to a thrown knife from the Clown. I believe that is 2 kills for blue side and none for purple team. They're really going to be happy with that, as they're going to shove up the mid lane now with the man advantage on the map. Shaco's ult popping on the minions there, just doing a bit of damage to help clear it out. And Oriana, Blitzcrank, Twitch, and Shaco all pushing up the mid lane. They're running over towards the enemy's red buff now, though. Going to check that out. Maybe they'll find Gragas. They do. Blitz flashes forward, throws the hook, but Gragas body slams away, dodging the hook just barely. And Blitz flash down there, not exactly worth, but sometimes you just gotta try. You miss 100% of the hooks you don't throw. As Amumu bandage tosses in, lands his ult onto 2 members of blue team, but the Blitzcrank doing a ton of burst damage to the Morgana, who does go down, but Amumu got a double kill here as Caitlyn comes in as well with nearly all of the rest of purple team, and they get 3 more kills for themselves, making it a grand total of 4 kills for the 1 kill for blue team, as Jax is split pushing up in the top lane here. He's going to back off, though, not knowing where most of the members of purple team are. He does not want to split push too far. He doesn't want to get up to that tower. Could get ganked, could get knocked into the tower by the Gragas ult. He does not want to risk that, as he is the only member of blue team that is currently alive and needs to go back and defend this inner mid turret if he can manage to do that. Twitch, though, did just come up, as well as Oriana, Blitzcrank, and Shaco, all of them dying around the same time, having similar death times. The purple team does manage to get another turret for themselves, putting them back in the lead in terms of turrets on the map. Blitzcrank running in and pressing R, killing off all of those minions. He does have the completed Archangels, not the Seraphs quite yet, as he does get jumped onto by the Akali, doing quite a bit of burst damage along with a few auto attacks from Caitlyn. The Akali, being squishy herself, does get chunked pretty hard by 1 or 2 autos from Twitch, but walks away before any real damage can be done, as now Oriana's stuck in kind of a bad spot, but Akali leaps onto the Twitch, igniting and shadow dashing one final time for the kill, going into Zanya's under tower to try and survive a bit longer, wait for a shadow dash cooldown to come up. She shadow dashes away to a minion. Shaco's clone is chasing her, as Shaco and his clone are dropping auto attacks onto her, and she does go down. The Shaco then turning invisible and leaping away with his Q. But the rest of purple team, aside from Gragas, has shown up here and is going to be pushing the lane, again getting a turret for themselves, another inner turret, this time down in the bot lane. Blitz missing his hook by an inch onto that Amumu. Would have pulled him under tower if he had got that and done quite a bit of damage. Blitz's mana shield being popped, nearly going down. The Morgana flashes forward and presses R, the initial proc of her ult, being enough damage to kill the low health Blitz after she flashes forward, but she does go down herself to tower shots and some attacks from the Shaco, who has shown up, as we see in top lane. The Gragas and the Jax dueling it out. Jax popping his ult when he gets down to about half health, and the Gragas popping his own to keep the Jax off of him, as the Shaco finds Amumu low health in his jungle, ignites him and throws a knife and gets the kill there, gets the shutdown. Jax a little bit too low on health to really consider dueling here. He does have to run away. Maybe the Gragas is going to be able to chase him. He's running after him, but no, he body slams into a minion. Just going to keep pushing up the wave and keep sustaining up with that 4% health gained every time he casts a spell. That's his passive, by the way. He gains 4% of his maximum health on every spell cast with an 8-second cooldown on the passive's ability to proc. Jack's low health returning to his base now is going to heal up. He already has home guard boots, so he's going to be back in the top lane fairly quickly, as we see Oriana here dropping her ball onto Gragas, missing the command attack actually, dropping a ward into the bush to follow after him. Does get a slow onto him, but Gragas body slams over the wall, not going to be caught by the duo of Oriana and Blitzcrank at this point, unless actually they're still chasing him, the Blitzcrank being quite quick with his W and the speed buff from Oriana. Shaco getting caught by the Akali here, who flashes over the wall and then shadow dashes to him. Shadow dashes again, chooses the right one, doesn't go for the clone, does get the shutdown on the Shaco. A duel between AD carries happening in the bot lane. That Expunge doing a whole ton of damage to the Caitlyn. Twitch winning the duel there with his ult and Expunge. Jax 1v1ing with the Akali here. The Akali popping Zonias as Jax leap strikes on her. The Jax popping his ult as the Akali is into Zonias. The Oriana showing up to shield the Jax, not having quite enough ability to shield him, though. The Akali, still not having gone down, despite going incredibly low, does manage to get a double kill for herself as Morgana shows up and spell shields her in time to prevent the Orianna from taking her out. The Amumu Vanish tossing onto the low health Twitch there, who was all alone and pretty far up the lane, does take him out with the Banish Toss ult and his Tears of Sadness. The Morgana and the Akali again killing another man up in the top lane as Blitzcrank is a bit too far out, and his hook is spell shielded by the Morgana, and then he goes down to the Shadow Dash and Binding combination there. The Caitlyn just pushing up the mid lane here, getting some stacks on that Bloodthirster, or rather, I suppose it's still stacks, but it's stacks on the shield effect now, rather than the stacking AD that it used to give, stacking AD in lifesteal before they changed it and gave it a shield instead of that, a temporary decaying shield. Mumu basing in his jungle there as things have quieted down in the Rift a little bit, both teams sort of gathering their resources again before deciding to go for a fight. Blue team does have Baron warded and purple team does not. Akali dashing onto a minion and then onto the Orianna, going to drop her Shroud for a slow, and Caitlyn's ult comes through as well. That's a rampage that Akali is on, but she might have gone a bit too far into enemy territory there, getting hooked by the Blitz, and then a whole bunch of damage coming from the Twitch and the Blitzcrank, both of them doing a lot of damage, each of them to the Akali, and she does get shut down in the end there. The trap proc, the Shaco's Jack-in-the-Box procking on the Caitlyn, who gets feared, but Blitzcrank misses the hook there, and the Caitlyn is safe, netting away. As Blitzcrank takes a bit more poke there from the Caitlyn now autoing the Shaco, who walks away, but then queues back in with invisibility, as Jax has shown up now from the top lane. And blue team roaming down towards the dragon, at least the Twitch and the Shaco are. They might be going for that as a play. Now Shaco looks like he's just going towards bot lane, going to want to push that out. Shaco now having a static Shiv might want to start split pushing this point. He's able to kill the waves fairly quickly with that little zap of electricity damage going through all... Electricity damage, that's not a kind of damage. Little zap of AP going, of magic damage going through the whole wave as it gets shocked by a burst of electricity from his knives. The Gragas turning around on the Jax here, who bit off a bit more than he could chew in this 1v2 between the Gragas and the Amumu and him, as Blitzcrank shows up to try and help the Jax out, who has leap-striked away at this point, and the Blitzcrank goes down in his place. As Orianna and Twitch have once again found Caitlyn down in the bot lane all alone, Twitch getting that movement speed buff, and Orianna ulting the Caitlyn to get a kill, but purple team's taking advantage of 3 members of blue team being down towards the bottom of the map and are starting to do this Baron. They do not have their jungler nearby, though. Amumu is on his way. Yes, he's there. He's going to Bandage Toss in, and those tears are going to be running, crying the Baron to death. Blue team doesn't seem to have this warded. They did earlier, but I suppose it ran out, as purple team nearly has it down now, and blue team isn't responding. Yeah, purple team's going to have their Amumu smite that out. They do get the Baron for themselves. Everyone but Caitlyn now wearing that Baron buff because she was dead when it went down, but generally 1 kill for Baron is pretty worth. You could say that one in all chat. As a turret goes down, and that gives another turret over to blue side, but the Baron buff going to be certainly worth getting a turret and a kill, giving a turret and a kill over to the other team. The Orianna getting bound by the Morgana, who comes by here now. She just binds her and keeps walking past, confident that her Caitlyn's able to take her out, and then ults the Twitch, who goes down, giving Morgana a killing spree. She's doing quite well for herself. 7 and 3 down there coming out of the support role in the bot lane. Has a Zonia's and Sork shoots for herself. Going to be doing a bit of damage despite being a support, as the Jax does land Counter-Strike onto the Gragas, who's not taking very much damage. He's incredibly tanky with the combination of Warden's Mail, Rod of Ages, and a Iceborne Gauntlet. Going to do a lot of damage as well with the Iceborne Gauntlet procs and the AP from Rod of Ages. As Akali shows up, getting herself a double kill onto Jax and Shaco, and then the blue team gets aced by Gragas, who takes out the the Blitzcrank, with a last auto attack empowered by the proc of the Iceborne Gauntlet. Purple team now going to be pushing up bot lane and top lane, 2 members to each lane, as the Gragas and Akali get a turret for themselves in top lane. Twitch here showing up to defend the inhibitor turret, but getting leapt on by the Akali, who goes into Zonia's as soon as she gets under tower. She does have that Baron buff and quite a lot of damage. Shadow dashes one more time to him, and then lands a Q and an auto attack for the proc for the Mark of the Assassin, and takes him out, getting the killing spree. Gragas being a friend here to his Akali, taking up a few tower shots so that she can get out safely. And the Jax coming in with the home guards and the Counter-Strike, going to be stunning up the enemy Akali, and Gragas under the tower. Does go down though to the Akali's burst, but the Akali then gets hooked while stunned by the Blitzcrank, and Blitzcrank gets a shutdown on the Akali. That is going to be some good gold going over the Blitzcrank there, because Akali was certainly doing very well for herself. She's at 18 and 8 right now and has a Rylai's Crystal Scepter, a Zhonya's Hextech Gunblade, and a Hex Drinker, doing a lot of damage with all that combined damage, and being very difficult to itemize against because she's got so much damage of both types, AD and AP. The Shaco doing a lot of damage as well, though, to the Caitlyn, getting bound by the Morgana, not going to be able to pick up the kill on the Morgana, but did kill off the Caitlyn. Gragas chasing the Blitzcrank under the tower here, being incredibly tanky while also doing some decent damage, is going to be able to take out that Orianna, who comes to try and protect her Blitzcrank, who goes down herself. The Shaco chasing the Morgana a bit too far into the jungle, gets bound, and then bandage tossed onto by the Amumu, as the Twitch now gets exhausted by the Morgana, and Morgana pops ult as well, but the Twitch flashes out of range before the ult can run out and proc the stun onto him. He then comes out of invisibility and is now trying to clear the wave away before the enemy team can come in and kill his tower, but he gets bandage tossed onto and then ulted by the Amumu, and Gragas body slams in and lands it onto the Twitch, going on a rampage at this point, and Purple Team is pushing up the mid lane, going to be taking a lot of damage out of that mid lane inhibitor turret, maybe even just going to go down at this point, though Gragas is chasing the Blitzcrank as Jack shows up with Home Guard's boots. Gragas gets pulled under tower by the Blitzcrank, but because he got pulled next to the Blitzcrank, he does manage to take him down before going down himself to a combination of the tower and Jack. Morgana, meanwhile, has been pushing up this mid lane the whole time, landing one more auto onto that Morgana, and you would have had it, but she's running away now from the Jack's spell immunes to avoid the stun from Counter-Strike, and does walk away after binding the Jax, flashing, actually, at the end there. Probably didn't want to be hit by the combination of Jax and Orianna having a lot of move speed and gap closers, as the Morgana does again land a bind onto him as Jax pops his Counter-Strike, trying to catch on to the enemy team, but not being able to. The Orianna providing another speed buff for her team, chasing after the Amumu into his jungle. They might be chasing a bit far, though. Caitlyn is down in the bot lane, going to be split pushing. They might lose an inhibitor turret for this, and the Amumu going down incredibly slowly, not even taking any damage, really, from the enemy team. As Blitzcrank is here to defend the inhibitor turret, but it's a bit too little too late. Caitlyn had been pushing this whole time and does do quite a lot of damage to that tower, but perhaps underestimating the amount of damage that an AP Blitzcrank can put out, does try to 1v1 the Blitzcrank and goes down to that incredible amount of burst that can be put out by the hook and the static field. Jax taking his red buff now while he has the ability to do so. Shaco using his Q to dodge the Gragas' ult pretty far up in the mid lane. Gonna pop his ult and start doing a bunch of damage to the Gragas, but Gragas has some backup, whereas Shaco does not. The Morgana shows up and is unstoppable as the Dark Pool does kill off the Shaco in the end there, putting the Morgana at 9 and 3, and now she has a death cap. She's gonna be doing nearly as much damage as a mid laner, despite coming from that support role. Twitch in the top lane going to take that last little bit of health that the purple outer turret had on it, with a few auto attacks that were coming out of invisibility after split pushing up to there in the top lane. Jax is going to be taking the blue buff and then the white camp, clearing out his own jungle while he has the time and the opportunity to do so. Probably going to be wanting to get as much farm as he can so he can scale into late game and start jaxing all over people's faces. Amumu landing the bandage toss onto Twitch, who is still split pushing perhaps a bit too far up. Yes, a bit too far up, as he does go down to the combined damage of Amumu and Twitch, of Amumu and Gragas, sorry, the Gragas getting the kill there, as Orianna with a wonderful shockwave manages to peel the Akali off of her, interrupting the Shadow Dash with her shockwave knockback. That was wonderfully done. I'm gonna have to give some props to Orianna for that one, but she does then go down, stepping a bit too close to the Akali, and not having another shockwave with which to peel her off, does go down to the burst damage of the Akali, who then jumps onto the Blitzcrank, doing a ton of damage to him, and then onto the Jax. The Caitlyn getting a double kill after Akali kills off the Blitzcrank and the Orianna. That is 4 members of blue team down, and then the 5th member goes down went down earlier in the top lane and in Twitch, who was split pushing a bit too far up. So that is an ace for purple team as they push up and take 2 inhibitors. And now top lane as well has been being pushed by Gragas this whole time. Twitch does manage to ult to get the kill onto Akali, but I feel like it's probably a little bit too late, as the rest of purple team is here and they're diving onto the Twitch, landing bandage toss onto him there with the Amumu, and then the Morgana exhausting him. Another ace for purple team as Gragas throws out his ult to get the kill onto the Twitch. He's now auto-attacking the turret, going to be trying to take that down as quick as he can. He walks away though, there's too few minions for him to keep pushing onto these Nexus turrets. and Purple Team is going to be happy with 2 inhibitors down and a few more kills for themselves, as Baron is going to be coming up in about 5 seconds, and Dragon is currently live, so they have some other objectives on the map to take if they feel like it. The Greg is turning around onto the Shaco, perhaps biting off a bit more than he can chew, as Jax also does show up. He gets ignited. The Jax flashes after him, but he body slams away. The Jax then leap strikes onto him. A knife thrown by Shaco there. Jax popping his ult so that he can survive any potential burst coming through from the Caitlyn and the Amumu, who have circled around behind him. He does not survive the whole time. He does go down, but he survives for quite a while, as the Blitzcrank is focusing onto the Caitlyn here, and then turns his focus onto the Amumu, taking him out. With the Caitlyn having a ton of attack speed and some decent lifesteal, is going to be able to kill the Blitzcrank, but then gets shut down by the Orianna, who comes in with her W, a command attack, command dissonance, and then command shockwave, doing quite a bit of burst damage and interrupting the Caitlyn, who tried to ult the Orianna to get the kill there, and goes down, giving the double buffs and the shutdown gold over to the Orianna. But that's the first kill Orianna's gotten in this game, and I don't think it's going to be digging her out of any hole anytime soon. She's going to need a lot more than that to be able to come back into this match, especially if she wants to measure up to the amount of effect that the Morgana has been having on this game, with that Void Staff, Death Cap, and Zhonya's already completed, going to be doing nearly as much damage as the mid lane Akali is, except in a AoE sense in team fights. The Twitch getting jumped onto the Akali there, not being able to go invisible in time to avoid the burst from the Akali, does go down to Shadow Dash after Shadow Dash, as Orianna probably going to be sharing the same fate, running away, throwing the ball behind her for vision, and then getting leapt on by the Akali, who comes in with a spell shield given over by Morgana, so Morgana can get the assist there. As Gragas is teleporting into the bot lane, going to be pushing that up with the help of some super minions. Shaco popping his ult and coming out of invisibility to start attacking the Gragas, but the Gragas is incredibly tanky at this point, having finished his Randuin's Omen, as well as having that Spectre's Cowl, not taking any damage really from the Shaco. And the bot lane is being pushed up by many, many minions, as well as a few members of Purple Team. The Akali leaping into Blue Team, diving them under the tower. The Jax goes down to the Gragas in the end there, as Blitzcrank is forced back onto his base, probably going to try and hook somebody onto the base with them. Akali actually fountain diving there at the end there, but it's not really going to make too much of a difference that she went down, since all of the Nexus turrets are now down, and the Nexus is wide open for Purple Team to start attacking. They're just going for kills here now, though. The Twitch respawn going to do quite a lot of damage to the Morgana, who goes into Zhonya's to avoid the last few ticks of the poison, but does go down anyways after coming out of the Zhonya's Twitch a bit too close by, able to get some more auto attacks onto her and kill her. As Blue Team actually isn't going to lose the game at this point, they're managing to hold off the minions. Orianna using Shockwave to keep the minions from attacking the Nexus there, keep the Nexus alive just a little bit longer. Blitz's shield being insanely huge as it gets popped there. His passive shield getting popped by the Caitlyn, who does go down to the tower after killing off the Blitzcrank. That one-on-one duel just being so full of shields on Blitzcrank's parts, with both the Seraphs and his own mana barrier being popped. He has basically a second health bar there when he uses those both in tandem. Inhibitors respawning soon here for Blue Team. They might be able to hold on for a bit longer. Things are looking pretty bleak, but you never say never. They might be able to win this game still. It could end up with a victory screen for Blue Team, as Amumu has found out that Blue Team's blue buff is still up and is going to be going and taking that for himself, as some pings are coming down onto the Baron. Looks like Purple Team wants to do that and then push in for the win, which wouldn't be too terrible of a call, though actually some assistance and I'm going here pings are being pinged onto the Dragon, as well as Gragas is down there, going to be starting that up, doing a good amount of damage to it with the chunk that his percentage, the percentage health chunk that his W provides on that auto attack in power. Jax pushing up the top lane, going to be getting some more farm for himself, trying his damnedest to farm as much as he can and turn into that late game monster that Jax can become, as Amumu and Gragas are here. Amumu going to smite out the dragon, and that's another dragon going over to Purple Team, and a bit more of a gold lead for them, like they really needed it though. They have 20,000 gold up on this Blue Team, and they have an 82,000 to 63,000 totals, as well as a 10-5 lead in terms of towers. So certainly not really needing the dragon to be compounded on top of that, but nobody says no to easy gold, so no reason for them not to get it, I suppose. As Caitlyn is here in the top lane, going to be dueling out the Jax, who leaps under tower onto her and shows what Jax can do even when his team is behind. He does counter-strike to avoid a ton of the attacks from Caitlyn, but then gets left on by the Akali, who's come up to the top lane and shadow dashes onto the Jax, taking him out after he tower dives onto the Caitlyn. But honestly, I'd say that's worth it. A one-for-one trade at this point for blue team is certainly going to be a good thing, especially if the kill's going on to Jax, who's going to be their main hope going into the later game in this game. Purple team has started out the dragon here. Blue team does have a ward on it, which has not been swept out by purple team, so they know it's happening. Shaco, though, is back in the base, is not going to be able to get there in time to stop this from happening, not going to be able to get there in time to steal it. Actually, looks like he might be AFK at this point. He hasn't moved in quite a while. And the Baron does go over to purple team, Amumu smiting it out there, as Orianna trying to discourage purple team from chasing her down by throwing a dissonance field behind her and walking away. Purple team now going to push up the mid lane, 3 of their members, and 1 of them in the bot lane. The Caitlyn's still down from earlier when Jax tower dove her. And purple team going to get onto the mid inhibitor here, going to start hitting it and taking it down fairly quickly, as Gragas is down in the bot lane, going to be pushing in onto that inhibitor. Looks like this might be the end here for blue team. I don't think they've got any way to survive this one. With multiple members of purple team focusing onto the Nexus, and Amumu ulting a few members of blue team, getting pulled into the tower but flashing away at barely any health. The poison take from Twitch not being quite enough to bring him down, as the Akali does manage to take out the Twitch. The Blitz being forced to flash back onto his base, pulls the Morgana into the Fountain Laser, and the Morgana does go down. Orianna getting the kill credit there. The Nexus nearly dead. Can purple team take it out this time? The bandage toss does land, and yes, it looks like purple team's going to be winning this game. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.